I'm waiting for the calls to show up on my screen, but while I do so, let me deal with something I didn't have time to deal with in my monologue, and that is the swirling, more than swirling, the tumult of rumours about the Prime Minister of Britain, Sir Keir Starmer. Let me be plain. I actually have no evidence at all, and have seen no evidence at all, that Sir Keir Starmer is gay, that Sir Keir Starmer's wife is going to divorce him, and I wouldn't give a damn if either or both were true. It's none of my business. I don't care who Keir Starmer sleeps with. He could sleep with the donkeys in his sanctuary, as long as he didn't commit any offence with them. So far as I'm concerned, I really have no interest in who sleeps with whom. But Sir Keir Starmer is now widely held in Britain to be screwing the entire country. That's what concerns me. And he is in an improper relationship with the gay Bangladeshi billionaire Lord Ali. That improper relationship is a financial one. Keir Starmer has accepted utterly inappropriate gifts and financial support from Lord Ali in the first instance without declaring it. This is a matter of fact.
In a moment that shook Westminster, George Galloway delivered a thunderous speech that pierced the political fog with unexpected intensity. What began as another day in British politics turned into high drama as Galloway unleashed a fierce assault on Prime Minister Keir Starmer. The newly elected MP shocked the Prime Minister, his supporters and the media with an exposé so powerful it caused a literal earthquake in Westminster. His accusations were not vague, they were biting and explosive. With stunning force, Galloway accused Starmer of being entangled in a web of financial connections revolving around billionaire Lord Waheed Ali, a name long floated in the corridors of power. Lord Ali, a media tycoon and political donor, has long been seen as a man whose influence stretches beyond the studios and newspaper offices he commands.
I don't think anyone is persuaded by that, and as usual with Starmer, and with others of his political stripe, he sought to triangulate, and he's ended up alienating both sides. Most people are completely unconvinced by the semi-good things that he said, and the people who are angry at what people like me regard as semi-bad things that he said are even angrier at him than they were before. There has never been a Prime Minister, and I joked about this before these riots, will Keir Starmer last as long as Liz Truss? Will he outlive that famous lettuce? There has
But Galloway painted a darker picture. Secret deals, hidden money and a relationship compromising democratic governance. Before a crowd of reporters, cameras flashing, Galloway did not hold back. He called out what he saw as a betrayal of public trust, a Prime Minister beholden not to the citizens who elected him, but to a billionaire benefactor operating in the shadows. However, the biggest question is why is Starmer connected to Lord Ali, and why Galloway's speech raises so much concern. Let's break it down.
Breaking news for you, as if you thought the gravy train had hit the buffers. Well, it hasn't, ladies and gentlemen. More revelations from Keir Starmer. This morning he admits that he took £20,000 in donations from Lord Ali for accommodation for his 16-year-old son to study, in his words, peacefully for his GCSE exams. I presume this means that's part of the £20,000 that was racked up for using the apartment that Lord Ali has, £18 million apartment apparently, in Covent Garden, a penthouse. Now, previously they said they used that for meetings. Previously they said Keir Starmer worked there on the night of the election. Previously they said that this was a place that he used to use for planning meetings during the election campaign. Now he's saying it was for his son to study peacefully for his GCSEs. Well, I don't know how much peaceful studying he was doing while they're all having a party on election night.
Lord Wahid Ali is a long-time supporter of the Labour Party. While there is nothing wrong in showing support for a particular political party, Lord Ali's support for Labour has come under scrutiny in recent months over the tens of thousands of pounds he has given to his party's MPs to cover clothes, holidays and work events. According to data unveiled by Sky News' Westminster Accounts Project, he gave Sir Keir over £39,000 sterling, 0 pence in gifts and hospitality throughout the last Parliament. The Prime Minister alone has received nearly £19 sterling, 0 pence worth of work clothes and several pairs of glasses from Lord Ali, as well as £20 sterling, 0 pence worth of accommodation. But it gets even crazier.
Welcome back to State of the Nation. It's the story that won't stop, Diggate. Yesterday we discussed the fact that Starmer's dates didn't make sense after he tried to throw his son under the bus by suggesting that Lord Ali's £18 million apartment was used for his son to study for his GCSEs. We also discussed the fact that the apartment was used for Starmer's COVID broadcast when it was decked out to look like his own home, even with pictures of his children in it. However, since then, more developments have emerged. The Guardian reported on the story after having been briefed by Number 10 that it understood the flat was used for the COVID broadcast as a one-off. 37 minutes later, the Guido Fawkes news site, clever old Guido, revealed he had also used the one-off apartment for his broadcast tribute to the late Queen Elizabeth II. This use of the apartment does not appear in the Register of Interests, and it's intriguing to try to speculate what was wrong with the Reverend Starmer's.
Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner and Chancellor Rachel Reeves have also received donations used for purchasing clothes by the long-standing Labour donor, while Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson received £14,000 for work events around her 40th birthday. While these donations had been declared by those involved, Conservatives have accused ministers of being part of a government of
and witch hunted in the most vicious way I've ever seen in my lifetime. And I've been a member of the Labour Party for a long, long time. You have absolutely said you had 10 pledges, you were going to carry on the Corbyn legacy. And ever since you've done nothing but distance yourself from the ideas which tens of thousands of people joined the Labour Party to support, and all you've done is feed into the Tory ideology of not supporting strikes, of carrying on with the privatisation of our health service. You're doing everything to feed into a Tory victory, because we may as well have a Tory if we have a person like you who lies to the party. It's dishonesty.
Thank you very much.
And our health service is going right
much.
down the pan, and you have a big responsibility, the working class people of this country.
Can you move back, please?
Excuse me. You'll just don't be getting physical.
No, I'm not touching you. Can you move back then, please?
You're touching my breast.
Can you move back, please?
Now move back.
No, can you?
For those that don't know, Labour and Keir Starmer promised to clean up politics if they got into government by cutting private funding of politicians, which they said is harming British politics. Now they are receiving money and gifts from the same people they promised to oppose. If that is not hypocrisy, then what is? And the Tories are not allowing them to forget. When you think things can't get worse, Labour finds new ways to shock you. Lord Ali is being investigated by the House of Lords standards watchdog over allegedly failing to register interests. An investigation over alleged non-registration of interests, leading to potential breaches of paragraphs 14 and 17 of the 13th edition of the Code of Conduct for members of the House of Lords, was launched at the start of the month. On its conclusion, it transpired that Sir Keir Starmer's biggest donor failed to register in time, that he had a controlling interest in a media company, was a director of a British Virgin Islands-based firm, or the entirety of his roles at a charity. So, Starmer and Labour didn't just accept gifts from a person that represents what they stand against in their manifesto, but received donations from companies based in a tax haven. So, after condemning billionaires for their interference in politics, Starmer turned around and accepted donations from the same people. Talk about betrayal. No wonder George Galloway and other independent politicians are outraged. Further outrage was sparked when it emerged that the Labour donor had even held a no-10 pass for a time, although Labour has since said that Lord Ali handed this back at the end of July. While Sir Keir may be rather displeased that his biggest donor is back making headlines once again, not least after the Giftgate scandal overshadowed his first party conference as Prime Minister, it's hardly been the best start to the job. But Westminster is about to be even more in the public eye, albeit for the wrong reasons given the expected backlash that has followed Galloway's exposé. Now, let's tell you what the Rochdale MP said about Keir Starmer and his relationship with Lord Ali that is shaking the walls of Westminster. There is, Galloway said, an undeniable conflict of interest here. He stressed that no Prime Minister should ever be in a position where their decisions might be influenced even subtly by someone outside the democratic process, someone who answers to no one but themselves. His voice, unmistakably sharp, cut through the usual political jargon, driving home the message that this was not mere speculation, but a serious concern about integrity and accountability at the highest levels of government. Galloway's comment echoes what many are thinking but have not had chances to express them. Over recent weeks, murmurs of Lord Ali's growing proximity to Starmer have been bubbling beneath the surface. Reports had surfaced of financial contributions, advisory connections, and even shared involvement in various initiatives that align closely with Labour's current direction. None of these revelations taken alone amounted to clear evidence of wrongdoing, but together they formed a pattern, one that suggested influence, access, and perhaps undue power. Galloway's comments crystallised the unease building in political and media circles. He likened the situation to a rerun of the old political game the public had grown tired of, where billionaires pull strings and politicians speak of reform but keep dancing to old tunes. "We were promised a new kind of politics," Galloway thundered, echoing Starmer's own words, distancing himself from Jeremy Corbyn. But now, he said, those promises look hollow. "This is not a new movie," he added. "It's the same old play, just with a different actor." In the heat of his condemnation, Galloway also made a deliberate point to steer the narrative away from personal scandals. He directly addressed the swirling gossip surrounding Starmer's personal life, with an emphasis that this moment should not become a media frenzy about the man's family or personal decisions. "This is not about tabloid trivia," he said firmly. "This is about ethics. This is about trust and the possible betrayal of the British people."
Where did it all go wrong? Do you look back to a period of time, an individual, and say that was where we started to be unmoored from our safe anchorage?
I would say the Blair era was the beginning of most of our modern ills. It certainly was the beginning of this coming together, ideologically speaking, of the parties at Westminster. They're all Blairites now. Rishi Sunak could easily serve in a Tony Blair cabinet. Keir Starmer might not even make the cut in a Tony Blair cabinet, but not for ideological reasons. The Liberals, the Nationalists, they are all Blairites. Not so much two cheeks of the same backside, but increasingly one cheek of that backside. A one-cheeked backside doesn't sound very functional, but I think that's what we have got. And our society, your own news bulletins, make plain what the result is. Our cops are festooned in rainbows and twerking at the crowd, although we've still got the Notting Hill Carnival to come, remember, while there's an absolute crime wave. The Mayor of London talks about clean air and pronouns, whilst anyone with teenage children would be in a state of terror if their children were outside the house after nightfall, and not even after nightfall. Our army is about to ban the use of the title rifleman and guardsman.
This is about the kind of government we want leading our country. That statement struck a chord, especially as public attention appeared to be drifting towards sensationalist distractions and clout-chasing reporters. Galloway's refusal to indulge in personal mudslinging added weight to his broader argument that this moment demands a serious reckoning, not a media circus. And he wasn't alone in that view. Within minutes, prominent voices from transparency advocacy groups showed their support for Galloway's concerns. Even sources within the Parliamentary Committee on Standards and Privileges began to leak their discomfort about the relationship between Starmer and Lord Ali. One parliamentary insider, a lady, speaking anonymously, admitted that the apparent closeness between the two men had become a point of quiet worry in the halls of power. It sets a dangerous precedent, the source said. If the Prime Minister or any politician relies on the financial backing of someone with substantial media influence, even indirectly, the line between public service and private loyalty starts to blur, and once that line blurs, democracy becomes vulnerable. Starmer's refusal to respond directly to the growing chorus of questions has only intensified public suspicion. Critics, including former ethics advisors, have called for full transparency, urging the Prime Minister to release all details of his financial and advisory links to Lord Ali.
I think we've got a clip of where he's talking about sleaze, and it's really quite strong at the time, and it's very poignant today.
Can I remind the Prime Minister of the Nolan Principles, which are meant to govern the behaviour of those in public office? They're these: selflessness, integrity, objectivity, accountability, openness, honesty, and leadership. Instead, what do we get from this Prime Minister and this Conservative government? Dodgy contracts, jobs for their mates, and cash for access. And who's at the heart of it? The Prime Minister, Major Sleaze, sitting there.
Now, the thing is with Starmer, he has declared he's played by the rules.
Yep. Starmer, once hailed as the sober, principled alternative to the chaos of past administrations, now finds his image under siege. Galloway's explosive speech has unleashed a flood of commentary across social media, radio and print, painting a picture of a Prime Minister under the sway of elite influence rather than operating in the interests of ordinary citizens.
I make no bones about this. It's a brutal thing to say. Anybody who considers themselves to be a religious believer, who intends to vote for Keir Starmer, the genocide agent, should be thoroughly ashamed of themselves, should forget about the Eid, should forget about fasting, should forget about praying. You think God is listening to someone who's praying one day and voting for Keir Starmer the day before? What kind of a believer would that be? How would you answer that? If you're a religious believer, you believe in the Judgment Day, how are you going to answer that question?
For the Rochdale MP, the stakes are far higher than personal rivalry. This, he insists, is about the very foundations of democratic trust. When the line between political power and private wealth is blurred, he warned, the people lose faith, and when trust collapses, democracy begins to rot from within. If you enjoyed this political firestorm, like this video and subscribe to the channel for more fascinating political content.